What if I told you that one of the world's cleanest, safest, and most advanced cities is also packed with street vendors, historic temples, leafy parks, and neighborhoods that seem like other worlds? Singapore is that location. During my initial visit, I couldn't stop wondering how one tiny island could support so many different lives. I've spent years traveling by myself. I've strolled through Seoul's bustling streets. I have traveled around Bangkok's historic neighborhoods. In London, I've had leisurely days. I was impacted by each of those cities. However, Singapore seemed to be able to sharpen, polish, and balance them all in a way that no other city could. It feels like you're in a tiny Chinese town as you turn a corner. After a little while, you'll find yourself next to a mosque that was constructed more than a century ago. After taking your taxi over the river, you find yourself in what appears to be the future, complete with glass skyscrapers and giant metal trees that shine at night. I learned that Singapore is more than just a place to visit during my 8-day solo trip. It has enough sights, stories, dining, and culture to make an entire vacation memorable and leave you wanting more. In today's episode, I'll walk you through the places I saw, the tours I took, the prices I paid, the things that surprised me, and what it's like to be a visitor who has seen a lot yet was still surprised. Let's start on the journey. For the first time in a long time, I traveled to Singapore with virtually no plans. Though nothing was set in stone, I had some ideas about the sites I wanted to visit. I prefer to travel in this style. It allows room for surprises. Besides, surprises are common in Singapore. I went to a little hotel close to Bugis Street. I could walk practically anywhere, but it wasn't the most affordable location. From the beginning, I intended to explore as much as I could on foot. Yes, the city is warm, but it's also designed with walking in mind. Broad routes, clear signs, shaded areas. It was somewhat reminiscent of Melbourne, Australia, but with more color and street life. I strolled to Kampong Glam on my first morning. The Sultan Mosque's golden dome loomed over everything else. In Kuala Lumpur, I had seen mosques with gold domes, but this place felt different. There's a gentle, laid-back vibe throughout. Cafes and vibrant murals. Stores that sell fabric and fragrances. I paid about 35 Singapore dollars for a brief guided walking tour. It covered the history of the Malay district and lasted for an hour and a half. It was straightforward but useful for comprehending the history of the location. Some travel advice for you. Guided walking tours in Singapore are typically reasonably priced and provide you with information that you won't get from reading the signs. I walked over to Little India. You are immediately struck by the color. It reminded me of Mumbai, but quieter and cleaner. I went to the temple of Sri Veeramakaliamman. Admission is free. Only take off your shoes and enter. It was one of the most peaceful stops of my entire journey because of the features inside, such as the statues, the bright paint, and the scent of incense. In Little India, food is inexpensive. For a city noted for its extravagant pricing, a full supper can cost between 6 and 10 Singapore dollars. I watched the street while eating curries and roti in a little outdoor restaurant. Just by watching you can learn a lot. The next day I went to Chinatown. Another easy walk from Bugis, but by the time I arrived the heat was strong, so I stopped in a few shaded spots along the way. Chinatown in Singapore is more organized than the ones I've seen in Bangkok or Manila. There is a sense of order even in the busy streets. I joined another guided tour here, 40 Singapore dollars for 2 hours, where the guide talked about the early Chinese migrants and how they helped build the city. I visited the Buddha Tooth Relic Temple, which is free. The place is large and calm, and the sound of soft chanting carries through the air. It reminded me a little of temples in Taiwan, but with more space around it. The ease of changing from old to new in a matter of minutes was one of my favorite things about Singapore. I paid about 10 Singapore dollars for a taxi ride to Marina Bay Sands after Chinatown. All of a sudden, I found myself in what appeared to be the future. Stone pathways that are smooth. Sharp lines. Glass towers reflecting water. The Sky Park observation deck cost me 32 Singapore dollars. Is it worth the cost? Sure, if you enjoy scenery. If you hate heights, then no. However, it provides you with a complete view of the city, including the houses, the tall buildings, and the ships that are waiting at sea. Gardens by the Bay is just next to it. The outdoor spaces are free to enter, however the cloud forest and flower dome cost 28 Singapore dollars apiece, or 53 Singapore dollars for both. I went to both. My favorite spot in all of Singapore was the cloud forest. Inside, the air has the coolness of a mountain dawn. Additionally, the dome's huge waterfall seems surreal. Although it felt more alive, it was similar to some of Dubai's indoor forests. Walking was enough on certain days. On others, I was saved by taxis. Depending on the distance and time taken, the majority of taxi rides inside the city cost between 8 and 18 Singapore dollars. Not cheap yet not bad. I paid 65 Singapore dollars for a half-day city excursion on day 4. It included a drive through the Civic District, a visit to Thian Hock King Temple, and Merlion Park. Normally, I steer clear of bus tours, but this one provided a quick, comprehensive guide to spots I might have missed on foot. Additionally, it made the city's colonial past easier for me to understand. Visiting Sentosa Island was one of the trip's highlights. You can use the Sentosa Express train for 5 Singapore dollars or take a taxi, about 12 to 18 Singapore dollars, to get there. Sentosa resembles the playground of Singapore. Parks, beaches, and other attractions. I wandered around Palawan Beach instead of visiting Universal Studios. It was softer and more laid back than Dubai's artificial beaches. No loud rush. Only couples, families, and a few tourists like me. On another day, I went to the Singapore Zoo, which is roughly 25 minutes from the city. Taxi fare, 22 to 28 Singapore dollars. Entry fee, 48 Singapore dollars. I've visited zoos in San Diego and Sydney, but this one had a different feeling of openness and greenery. The trails wind through actual forest, and the animals fill vast regions. You never have to leave luxury in order to feel close to nature. In Singapore, evenings are particularly striking. The city cools. The lights come on. One evening, I took a stroll around Clarke Quay, which is roughly 20 minutes away from Bugis Street. It has views of the river, choices for food and music, and bars. I watched boats cruise by while drinking something cool beside the water. Traveling can sometimes be about small things. By day 7, I realized something about Singapore. It feels familiar because it mixes so many parts of the world. Yet it is different because it keeps everything balanced. Clean, but not cold. Busy, but not rushed. Modern, but not empty of soul. My last day was slow. I returned to the places I liked most. Little India for food, Kampong Glam for a quiet walk, and Marina Bay just to stand by the water. 8 days felt long enough to see the city, but short enough to want more. There is no loudness about Singapore. It doesn't attempt to overpower you. Rather, it develops on you through little acts of kindness, such as tidy streets, welcoming people, safe areas, simple routes, and food that feels like home, regardless of where you are from. It is among the easiest and friendly cities I have ever been to as a lone traveler. And I've seen a lot. Singapore is now one of those unique cities that I would be happy to visit again, things that linger long after you've left. The experience in Singapore comes to an end with that. Though there is still plenty to explore, 8 days felt like a good taste of the city. The thing about Singapore is that opportunities abound. Even if you believe you've seen everything. Singapore should be at the top of your list if you're a lone traveler searching for a location where you want to go next. It's secure. It's uncomplicated. There are plenty of sites to visit, foods to sample, and streets to explore. You could be surprised in the same manner that I was. I appreciate you coming along on this trip with me. Until the next journey, continue to explore, travel, and maintain an open mind for the next adventure.